after being offered to star on CBS's show Hunted. Since leaving law enforcement, Griff has worked as a consultant on many cases throughout the country, and most recently has starred alongside Carole and Howard Baskin as the investigator on Carole Baskin's Cage Fight. Griff now lives in Florida with his wife Becca and 3 of their 4 children, Kayla, Megan, Connor, and Harper. So Griff, we are so excited that you are here tonight.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, Griff. You were so much fun to work with on Cage Fight. And I thought, people are just going to love being able to hear from you. And boy, when we announced it last week, everybody was like, yeah, that hottie. So
I don't know about hottie, but you definitely never know, as you can attest, Carole, what's going to come out of my mouth.
Yeah, like you telling me you were on OnlyFans. It was like, are you kidding me?
Which was a joke, people, by the way. That was a joke.
Oh, gosh. So, Deb mentioned it a little bit that you were involved in television before. Can you talk a little bit more about your law career and then your playing a law career?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of a funny story in law enforcement, or I'll start out with law enforcement. I started out I was a little bit older when starting law enforcement. Today, most people get involved, in their early 20s. And some agencies and states require you to be 18. Some of them require you to be 21. I believe I was 29 when I started, maybe 28, but I was a little bit older. So I got involved in something I'd always wanted to do. I'd had a first cousin who was a special agent with the GBI, and got involved, put myself through the police academy, paid for my own way, didn't have an agency to go work for, just figured I would graduate and then go find an agency to work for. So I decided I lived in Thompson, Georgia, which is about 30 minutes away from Augusta. And Augusta is actually the second largest city in the state of Georgia. And the Richmond County Sheriffs Office is the largest full service sheriff's office in the state, which means they handle in the county everything. There's no police department. It's all consolidated. They handle the courts, they handle the jail, they handle the calls for service, SWAT team, arrest warrants, traffic, all of it. So went to work there and was on road patrol in the beginning. And I guess about 3 months into the job, I was 2 months and right at 3 months from starting. I had been in what's called the FTO program. I was maybe a couple days out of that program, and I was involved in an officer-involved shooting. An unfortunate incident where I didn't have a choice, and when you're involved in one of those, whether it's justified or not, you get placed on desk duty. And mine was justified. I was cleared by the district attorney's office. I was cleared by the FBI and the DOJ. But while at the sheriff's office on desk duty, the sheriff noticed that I was a little bit older and, decided to offer me a position in violent crimes. And I thought I had a decent head on my shoulders. And I took that position, and that's where I fell in love with homicide. And it's kind of a joke, or just kind of a laughing matter about being the lead homicide detective, which I was, but for Richmond County, they only have one homicide detective. So I had to handle all cases or be involved in pretty much all of them, which we averaged about 35 a year. So it's not like you're the only homicide detective and you're not really working any cases. Other agencies of that size work or have a team of like 10 homicide detectives. So I definitely worked a number of cases because I was the only one. So it's just kind of like a little laughing matter. But yeah, I did that for many years and worked lots of cases, crazy cases that you read about and hear about on TV shows, and they're fiction, and you think that could never happen. Well, they do in real life. But it was from law enforcement getting into television. I was actually working a homicide and got a call from someone who said they were a producer for a TV show looking for someone in law enforcement to star on a new TV show. I thought it was another detective or somebody playing a joke on me. So I hung up on them. Called back, hung up on them again. It wasn't until they sent me an email and I checked out the name and realized it was legit and responded to it. And I went and auditioned for the spot on Hunted, which aired on CBS a couple years ago. And I was on Team Alpha. I was played myself. It was kind of like a big game of cat and mouse, a hide and go seek kind of thing. No pun intended, cat and mouse. But where the contestants would go on the run and try to avoid capture from law enforcement, and we would try to do what we, do in everyday law enforcement to capture them.
I'm curious from the audience, who has seen Hunted? If you've seen Hunted, go down to that little heart at the bottom left of or bottom right of your screen and just pick any emoji and click it so that I can see. I don't watch a whole lot of TV. But I had a question, actually, Griff, about your law enforcement career. Were you married at that time with children?
I was. Yeah, I was. So Becca and I have been married. We got married in 99. I had been married, and that was kind of the funny thing as well. Kayla was already born, and actually all of the kids were born when I got in law enforcement. The twins were 1 year old. In fact, my Becca and the kids went to live with her mom, and I stayed by myself during the academy so I could study every night, because I was not one of those students that was able to just hear it and retain it. I had to write it down. I had to reread it. I had to rewrite it and reread it again. And the police academy has a strict, you can fail something one time, you fail it again, you get kicked out. So, yeah, I definitely had my family during law enforcement. And that was, everybody would always call Becca when they would wake up in the morning and see me on the news, locally giving either see me on camera or just see me giving a statement to the media and talk about, hey, Griff's on TV. And she'd just laugh and say, that idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. Because I was just Griff to her. It wasn't a big deal to see me do something. So,
it seems like I can't think of anything in law enforcement that would be more dangerous than working homicide, because you're not just researching a case. You're out there actually looking for a killer. And it seems like that would put you and your family in such great peril. So how did you deal with that kind of stress, and how did your family deal with it?
Yeah, it's definitely something tough to go through. And it's kind of one of those things hard to explain. That there were several times where I would get a call from the district attorney or the sheriff and say, hey, we've got information that someone's put a hit out on you and your family because of someone that you locked up, this, that, and the other. And so those times were scary, but it was, the way I looked at it was you had to feel like it was just talk most of the time. Because if you went through looking over your shoulder every turn, it would drive you insane. And you, Carole, of all people, kind of, understand that mentality of having to always be looking over your shoulder. And it's not an easy thing to explain, but it's almost like, if the way I explain it is that you're walking through life like you're trying to wake up on Christmas Eve before Santa's been and sneak down to see if there's been any presents left, but you don't want your parents to hear you. That's the stress level that you're going through when you're going through life, trying to deal with that. Wow.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I deal with a lot of stress, but the people that I'm going after are not murderers, like most of them anyway.
Yeah. And I will say, talking about the hardest, the most dangerous, for me, I kind of downplay it a lot, but for me, from the law enforcement perspective, I feel like a traffic cop is the most dangerous, because he never knows what's inside that car, and he's required to pull over cars that have done what? They have already broken the law, whether it be just a small taillight or a speeding, but they've broken the law, and he doesn't know what he's going to get when he gets up to that car. So to me, that's the most dangerous. But I do understand, as a homicide detective, I was only hunting the worst of the worst criminals.
When you were on Hunted, you told me some really fun stories about how that whole thing came down. Are you at liberty to talk about that publicly?
Yeah. So They had the cast, if you want to call it, on the show from the law enforcement side, there was probably 50 or 60 of us, ranging from Teresa Payton, who was the PIO for, I think, President Bush, all the way down to, a homicide detective. So there are a wide range of people with military backgrounds, spec ops, Navy SEALs, different things like that. And one of the first things we did when we went to the briefing before we started filming was we asked them, they said, there's certain things we do in law enforcement that we don't want the public to know about them because it would put, current members of law enforcement in danger. And we had to make sure, what they were going to show. And then once we agreed upon that, they said, we want you to do everything you would do in real life for law enforcement. Well, we had a couple members of the NSA and the CIA that were on the team in headquarters, and I don't think CBS realized how far-reaching law enforcement's arm really is. And so it was very quick within the show that they had to stop everything that was going on and say, wait a minute, you can't do that. That's going a little bit far. And we're like, well, that's what you told us we could do, and so there had to be some adjustments made very quick.
And it's because you had access to such great tools that you were able to out everybody on the show much quicker than it would have made for a good show, if I understood correctly.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And there were rules that the show here in the U.S. only got one season. It's like maybe 6th or 7th season in the UK, and then it's in Australia, it's in Asia, it's all over the world. But there was, I feel like the downfall for that show, there was a lot of rules that they didn't explain properly. And so the public was a little confused on why certain things were done. But it was, you had to make it good for TV, I guess you could say.
And where can people see that season in the U.S.?
It's on Amazon right now. I don't believe it's free yet through Prime, but they were talking a couple months back that were going to put it, for free if you had a Prime membership. But I think it's like $11 for the entire season or something like that. But you can get it on Amazon Prime.
So, in addition to being labeled in a show called Hunted, where it was referred to as a cat and mouse game, how do you suppose that the people behind Cage Fight, I'm trying to think of the name of their group, ITV, how did ITV locate you for the role in Cage Fight?
So the story that I got was right before they reached out to me, I guess it was maybe 6 months or so before I was in the running had been reached out to about a different show. It was going to be like a Law and Order style show, but real life. And it was all the way up to we were ready to start filming. And then the pandemic hit and shut everything down. And then it just got tabled and was not picked up or anything. So we never started that show. And the production company that was vetting me for that show was tied to or under the same umbrella for ITV. So someone had my information, and that's how I was reached out, about this show. And, I think I've told you this, Carole, one of the things for the different people they were vetting that they told me that they liked was when they asked me about you, I was like, well, yeah, I've heard of her, but who hasn't? She's been all over the news, but I couldn't tell you anything about Carole or Joe Exotic or anybody, just because the business that my wife and I run, we've been so busy during the pandemic, we haven't watched any TV. So they didn't want someone that was going to be fangirling, for lack of better words, on Carole. They wanted somebody that was going to be a professional and do their job, basically.
I witnessed no fangirling. So for people who haven't seen Carole Baskin's Cage Fight, it was Think Factory under the ITV umbrella that had produced it, and it ran for 3 episodes. Do you remember? No, I don't.
I think it's 2. I thought they had 3 episodes filmed or ready to release, but they've only released 2 so far if I remember right.
Yeah, so people can see that over at Discovery Plus. It's streaming there, but that's one of those services you have to pay for. So probably nobody on this, except for maybe Deb and maybe Karen, have paid to see that. Dawn's flashing her heart, so maybe she's seen it. But the premise of it was to show the real world of what we deal with these animal exploiters and the abuse that they cause to the animals, the laws that they're breaking, and to bring all of that evidence, bring all of the receipts to the public. And so the way you were pitched to me by Think Factory and ITV was that you were this amazing homicide detective and that you had all of this background in dealing with really dangerous people, which of course we're dealing with in the animal world. And you were bringing an element that we've never had in our efforts to stop the abuse of these big cats. And so you came into this like completely a blank slate, I think, when it came to the animal industry. Can you talk about what that was like for you to learn about that industry on the job, literally, in front of a camera?
Yeah, it really was. And I'll be honest, there were times when Carole was kind of, it was being filmed, but it's showing me around and kind of, they're wanting Carole and Howard at times to show me, how the proper way, if you are a sanctuary, how things are done, how the animals are taken care of. And for me, I was like a sponge. I was absorbing everything that was being said because I didn't know anything about this. I mean, and I hate to admit it now, and I feel real bad about it, but when I first got there, somebody was talking about petting cubs. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to apologize ahead of time, but in my mind, I'm like, what's the big deal? Where's the crime? I don't get it, And even talking about some of the targets that we were looking into, I'm like, I've got pictures of my family in South Carolina at their facility, like in our scrapbook. I just didn't know. In the general public, I feel like that's one of the biggest issues is they don't know. They're not educated. But so for me, it was a real eye opener. I was like a kid in a candy store every time I would see one of these majestic animals and hearing Carole and Howard explain how things are done. I probably have 6 or 7 steno pads, books full of just notes that I've taken because for me it was something totally new, and I knew that if I got put in a situation undercover where I had to talk to someone and bluff my way through something, I needed to be able to, speak with a little bit of education on the matter and not just sound like a blooming idiot. So I definitely was soaked up everything that I was taught.
Well, it became abundantly clear that you can bluff your way through any kind of conversation, Griff.
That is one of my talents, I will say that.
But, I think it was really helpful because you brought with it such an innocence that if you had been a dyed-in-the-wool animal rights activist, there's just no way you can fake being as open to the idea of, hey, what do I have to do to book a party here for my whole family and do something illegal at your facility? I don't think you could have done that as somebody who had been in this world for so long. And it really helped me. It opened my eyes in so many ways because you brought an element of investigation to the show that I never would have thought of. I know the things that we look for in trying to track down and trap these animal abusers, but there were things where you were like, hey, look at all these phone numbers. Let's call everybody. I'm like, call everybody? You're like, yeah, we're going to call everybody.
And it is. And that was one of the things I felt like we worked very well together for. Yes, it was a TV show, but even for for the element of the actual investigation that we were doing, for future reference and for carrying it forward, I felt like you and I and everybody worked well together because of that. Because yes, y'all knew everything as far as the cats and the regulations and the guidelines, but as far as conducting a proper investigation to the point of, okay, if we have to go to court with this, it's not what we know, it's what we can prove. And I know that's a line that's used all the time in TV and movies and stuff, but it's true. It doesn't matter what I know. It doesn't matter that we know this person is abusing or selling animals or doing whatever. It's how do we prove it, and how do we prove it in a way that I can put it in front of a judge, and the judge can say, yes, this is what we call probable cause, and that justifies you doing this and this and this.
And I was so excited at some of the things that you were able to get people to say on camera or on audio, and things that there just was no way that we would ever be able to trap these people with their own words and their own actions the way that you did. And so I was so looking forward to doing an episode on every single one of these cub petters out there and all of these people, these circuses. And I mean, I've got, you've seen my list of all the people I want to go after. And so it was really sad that we've only had these 2 episodes and that people have not signed up for Discovery Plus in order to see this, because I think that's what it takes, is for it to be really popular for them to want to come back and fund doing more of these episodes to bring down more of these horrible places. And so I'm dealing with that. So are there any, well, do you want to talk about the work that you do now when you're not on TV?
Well, I mean, that's, so I've got a couple, just so kind of everybody can know what we do. My wife and I are regular business. We live in Destin, Florida. We have it's a coastal, beach transient tourist area. And we have a business that handles short-term rentals that do the cleaning for them. We've got anywhere, depending on the season, 20 to 70 girls and guys that clean the houses and things like that. But I also work with some professional athletes doing mental coaching for them so that they can stay focused on the task at hand, or if they're in a situation like a golfer, it's real stress compressed situation where you've got to hit a shot and you've got to keep your emotions down and stay focused, and just teach them what we learned in law enforcement on, how to do that, how to stay focused, and how to concentrate on what's important right then. And it's called the win mentality. What's important now. I did not create that. Someone far smarter than me did, but it's just what I was taught in law enforcement. And then I consult on cases as needed when people call me about stuff.
That is a great acronym. I love that. So I've run out of questions, and I know that everybody here is going to be so excited to ask you their own questions about all of the work that you've done. So I'm going to hand it back to Deb to run through the list of people who want to be called up as speakers.
All right. If you would like to come up as a speaker, you can touch the little heart down in the right-hand corner, and on the on the right-hand side of that is a hand that you can raise, and we can call you up. So Daniel, I'm going to let you start. Did you have a question or a comment for Griff?
Yes. I've seen the Carole Baskin's cage fight. I actually got to watch it on Discovery Plus with a free trial. So I got to watch both episodes, and it's a shame that it got cut off at 2 episodes. It was like there was a cliffhanger there. For those who have seen it, I'm not going to ruin it for people who may not have seen the program yet. And I love how you were able to actually get these people to talk to you. One of the things that stuck with me since I saw it was it Amanda that you had go out there when you took them in to do the cub petting?
Yes.
I could tell in her body language and like how she was carrying herself that she did not want to do that. I don't know, Amanda loves animals. Just having to do that, I just give it to her 100%. Like the courage she had to actually do that. I mean, any animal activist having to do something like that's just. Ugh. But thank you for what you've done, and I'll give it to somebody else. I love Baskin's cage fight. Awesome.
Daniel, that's definitely Amanda. That was one of the things with her. I'll just kind of hit on that real quick. Is she was, because of her background, it was going to be difficult for her. And you could see that. And it was emotional for her, as it would be anybody who's been in this industry. And that's why it was kind of important for us. We felt like from the investigative side, because she was kind of the matter expert on that. whereas I had just learned about a lot of the stuff. She could look for the things that were important as far as that goes, the evidence. And then for me, I could concentrate on my expertise, which is, detecting when somebody's lying to me, body language, and things like that, interviews and interrogations. So it worked out well.
Hi, Dawn. Did you have a question or comment for Griff?
Hi, Deb. Hi, everybody. Hi, Griff. I just wanted to let you know that after I watched Cage Fight, I went and searched for you because I did. And then, I found you on Facebook and I started following you. And your posts are hysterical. And keep them coming. I am just like very, 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 very interested. And I'm so looking forward to another Cage Fight. To have you and Carole work together again, so that more of these bad guys can go down. But again, keep them posts coming, because you know what? You are one funny guy.
I appreciate that, Dawn. That's awesome. And for anybody who doesn't follow me, feel free to. It's all of my social media platforms. I think I have them all listed as public, so you can, whether you're friends with me or not, you can follow along. And I say anything that's on my mind.
Yeah, follow them, guys. Follow them. I'm going to tell you, follow them.
Mary, did you have a question or comment for Griff?
Hi there. Yes. Griff, what was the most shocking thing that you saw while we were doing Cage Fight? And by the way, I did see it. I really appreciate it if you're involved. Thank you.
Okay, I think I heard everything. The most shocking thing that I saw on Cage Fight. Oh, wow. So...
Would that be Howie nearly running the golf cart into the ditch? That was pretty shocking. Yes, we all woke up.
So I see. For me, it's kind of, and that was kind of the draw to everything. Was I was new to this and had not ever seen anything, so all of it was just an eye-opening, experience, I guess you could say. But for me, the most shocking, and it's not a jaw-dropping thing where you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, we need to put it, like, we can't post that picture online because it's gory or something. It wasn't any of that. It was these individuals that we were investigating, their carelessness and just their cockiness to, I'm bigger and better than anything in the world, and nobody can tell me what to do. Carole can't tell me what to do. The government can't tell me what to do. If I want to kill tigers and cubs and lions, and I want to do whatever with them, by God, I'll do it because it's my right. And they just don't care. And to me, that was just the most shocking thing, because most criminals try to hide what they're doing. And these people don't. They're not hiding it at all.
Mary, you were really garbled, so I'm not sure he heard everything that you may have said, so you might want to try again.
I'm sorry, I had my phone laying on my leg. No, I was pretty surprised with how cavalier they are. And there are so many places here in Florida that need to be investigated. I want to join your team.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely, if we can get some more investigations going, we may have to open it up to the public, because there's definitely plenty of places that need to be taken down.
Karen, did you have a question or comment? Oh, let me rephrase.
Hi. Don't make me laugh, because I'll cough to death. I have this horrible sinus something. I've been in bed. I'm still in bed right now, so sorry if I sound like this, but I know you're going to say, of course, I have a question, right?
That's right.
Okay. I do, actually. Well, Griff, first of all, you're an amazing person. And to speak to what Dawn said, you crack me up on Facebook. Once in a while, I'll see a post come up, and then I go back and see what else you said. And it was seriously so funny. Kind of have my view on things. So that's nice. But thank you so much for all you've done with enforcement. It's shocking. I watch all those shows on TV, and like you said, you think they're only on TV, but seriously, you lived it. So thank you for all of that and your animal advocacy. I was just wondering, and you know what too, Carole, I absolutely still have Discovery Plus, thinking another episode may come out and won't let my husband cancel it, because I'm thinking there's definitely got to be something else there. So that would be great to see another episode. But my question is, and it was brought up today on the main page, on the Facebook page. Some person said we shouldn't allow these tree huggers to be able, it was on the Serval post, we shouldn't allow like tree huggers and all these kind of people to want to touch animals. And why do they do that? It's actually not tree huggers. It's not that group. It's the group that you said, the group that the people that think that they have these big egos, that they're going to take a lion and tame it, and take a tiger and breed it and then sell and keep the tiger in their house and that kind of thing. I wondered if you saw that after seeing it. Did you ever think about going into that with maybe another show, or maybe highlighting it in some other way? And of course, Carole would be in it, but because it's really it's that ego thing. And I wondered, after seeing those kind of people, it's kind of like an advocacy for animals. Did you ever think of trying to stop that kind of person?
Yeah, absolutely. And Carole, thank you for your question. I did, and I have, and there's always ideas floating around. I know since the show, Carole and I and Howard have communicated and discussed different ideas and things like that. And there's always that possibility, hopefully, that we can do other things. To hit on your topic about the tree hugger comment and whatnot, the people who, in my opinion, and Carole will correct me if I'm wrong, but the individuals that are wanting to do the petting, the ones that are willing to pay the money, those are just like I was, everyday average citizens who just don't know, who just aren't educated, from the aspect of, that it's not a good thing. And the reason they don't know is because until now, I guess it's a fortunate, unfortunate situation with how Carole's was, persona, or Carole was brought kind of to the limelight, if you want to say. But in the end, I guess it's a good thing if we can get laws passed and things for, to ban these things and bring, to light why it's a bad thing. And so I definitely don't think it's the tree huggers that's doing it. It's just the general public that thinks it's okay to do that. And then, of course, the criminal side of it are the individuals who are allowing it to happen and profiting from it, in my opinion, that also need to be stopped.
Exactly. That's what I think too. Thank you very much, and thank you for all you do. And keep posting, like Dawn said.
Yes, ma'am.
In keeping with that, Karen, one of the downsides of Cage Fight coming out is now his cover's blown. So it would be really hard for us to send Griff or Amanda into any of these places now that people have seen them and can really study what they look like and what they might look like in a disguise. So that is the one downside to him being able to do much of that kind of work, given the fact that it's already been exposed on television now.
That's true. Everyone knows his face. They'll know. You need a disguise.
I won't give any hints away, but let's just say there's one disguise that I think may work.
Send me in. I'll go. I would go. Thank you.
Karen, I was just thinking that you would go in a heartbeat. You would go.
I would. ADI called last year and asked me to go to a fair to take some pictures, and because it was in New Jersey where I live, and I said, let's go. I got my friend, we got in the car, sent the pictures to ADI right away. So I'm good at it. Just think about it.
So, Griff, I've got two questions. One, when you were in law enforcement, did you ever come across any situations where you had big cats in backyards or basements or anything like that when you would go to a scene? Did you ever encounter that? And two, in all of your steno books of information that you wrote down when you were filming and learning, what's the thing that stood out to you the most, and the thing that your mind was just blown about the most in all of that you learned?
So, great question. And my time in law enforcement, I didn't come across that. The only two, there was a rumor that there was someone who had a tiger in our area, but it was one of those kind of like folklore things that I never found anybody that ever knew where it was or who it was. It was just kind of a rumor. But the only two animals I ever came across in law enforcement were a snake in a house one time, and that they terrify me. So I quickly told dispatch that they could send animal control and that I was back in service. And then I was working a murder, and one of Ernest Hemingway's parrots was the victim in the case. He owned one of his parrots, and we had to find someone to come take the parrot out of the crime scene. So that was one of the, of course, it was an unfortunate event being a murder, but it was kind of neat that I got to see one of Ernest Hemingway's parrots.
Kali the tiger was born.
Oh, that's really cool. Interesting. So what about the other? What was the thing that was most mind-blowing about everything that's in all of your steno books?
So for me, I guess it boiled down to, it may seem simple, but because of my law enforcement background, everything's based on evidence and factual, what you can prove. I was blown away at if you want to call them fingerprints for the cats. They're the patterns of their stripes, and whatnot, and how Carole were able to get the pictures and compare them side to side from a cub, and we know it was with a certain individual, and then months later, we know it's with this individual because the print on the animal is the same going forward, and you can tell based on the distance apart, the distance from the eye, and things like that. That to me is a very cool and intricate, crime scene type evidence that you would go with. So for me, that really stood out.
Griff, I think I can close a cold case for you because Kali the tiger was born in June of 2000 at the Augusta Conservation Education Center in Georgia.
Huh.
So they had a whole bunch of tigers at one point, and I forget what year she came here, 2014. So by 2014, she was the last tiger that was there. So I don't know what year you were in Augusta, but that was probably who it was.
It very well could have been. That's interesting.
Mary, do I see your hand up?
Do I have my hand up? I'm sorry if I do. I have my hand up because I'm saying I want to join the party and go on investigations. That's all.
Griff, back to what you were saying about the cubs or the cat's unique stripes and spot patterns. When I found that out, and being that they're unique, just like your thumbprint, and that it goes clear to the skin, it's not just on the fur. That was really surprising to me too. I had no idea, and so I do think that's really interesting. And how, in fact, Jeff Kramer was our guest last week, I think, or the week before, I guess, and he was talking about how that's kind of a unique niche that he has, and being able that he is so good at doing that, and did that in the conservation game. So I too think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and something also that, and Jeff and them because they do amazing work. Cause I got to see some of the work they've done with what Carole showed me, and they may already do this, but it may be a possibility in the future to even create a database where, you have kind of open source investigation where anybody who's been to one of these parks can send in photos of an animal with, tagged with the name and the date of the animal and where it was at. So, you'd be able to track different animals at different places and where they've been and things like that, based on their striping.
It's interesting that you should mention that, because I saw some of the people from Typical Tigers are here in the group, and they and a friend of mine, Nick Daze from Tiger Queen Coin, actually it was Nick, I guess, that was talking about creating a database where they could track all of these cats and do exactly what you just said, have them like issued as NFTs even, to where people would be able to identify where a cat was at a certain point in time, so that when that cat disappears, there is evidence that cat used to be there. So where is it now? And did it go someplace else, or did it just drop off the face of the earth, which is usually the case?
Absolutely. I think that's an amazing way to do it. And it's something that goes back to not what you can, what we know to be true, but what we can prove. And if you can't prove something, it doesn't matter if you know it or not. In fact, it's worse if you know it and can't prove it, because then you pull your hair out.
Been there, done that. All right. Well, does anybody else have anything for Griff?
Carole, it's Daniel. I have a question. The way that the second episode of Cage Fight ended, where you went into, I forget the man's name, he's a horrible person, probably shouldn't even mention his name, but it kind of left it unopened. Did he ever get in trouble, or is he still out there doing business as usual?
I oddly do not believe, I don't remember which of the two guys that you're talking about. One of them
the one where Amanda went in and did the cup petting and all that.
So
Mario.
Mario, yeah.
With that one, he did get in trouble with USDA for allowing contact with a cub that was too big. Not actually from her, but somebody that came a couple weeks after her that apparently got pretty bitten up, scratched up by the cat. So we filed a complaint as well. We didn't want to do anything until after the show had aired, but as soon as the show aired, we went ahead and filed our complaint as well. But USDA usually will gather literally hundreds of complaints before they ever do anything. And it's typically about a 6-year process between the first complaint and getting anything done. So I expect it could still be years there. On the other one, where Griff was tracking down some people saying that they might be willing to sell cubs illegally, that guy is currently indicted and is facing a trial in July. And I am one of the people that he was connected with was called Wilson's Wild World or something, and they just recently got hit pretty hard in their lawsuit. So I'm hoping that part of their agreements in their suit was to throw this other guy under the bus, because that would really help come July, but I don't know that to be the case.
Thank you.
Well, this was wonderful. And Griff, thank you so much for joining us tonight and entertaining everyone with your stories and your social media posts. I saw one of them today that I thought was pretty funny and has tiger in the name.
Yeah. I definitely get some looks. So guys, anything that you see that I post social media, it's all for entertainment. It's trust me, it's nothing personal. It's just to get somebody to laugh. But absolutely.
Keep
Carole,
going.
Yeah, I will. Thank y'all for having me. I definitely enjoyed this.
And this may be our last one for a while. We had been doing this every Saturday, but I have really got to put my nose to the grindstone to try and get the Big Cat Public Safety Act passed in the next month or so, because we are running up and against an election and a lame duck session. And if the House and Senate both flip, well, one of them's already, but if they both end up being Republican led, we can just bet that the Big Cat Public Safety Act will not pass next year. So it has to pass this year. And I'm going to be doing everything I possibly can to make that happen. And so we may not be doing these on Twitter Spaces or Clubhouse for a while until we can get that done. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on these and for everything that all of you are doing to spread the word about why we need the Big Cat Public Safety Act to ban cub petting and phase out private ownership. And I'll hand it back to Deb in case she has anything else that she wants to add.
I just want to thank you all for joining tonight. And Griff, again, thank you for being here and taking time out of your evening to be here. I know this is a busy season for you, but I appreciate you taking your time. And I have to tell you, one of the funniest social media video clips you put up was I think you've actually put it up 2 or 3 times, but it's when you were actually standing in the party house and you were like moving your camera around and you circled it around to when Carole was in her office. And I kind of forget what the dialogue was now, but it was just hysterical. The look on your face whenever you were filming that yourself, it was pretty funny. So.
Yeah, I've got countless hours of candid stuff, as Carole could probably tell you.
Yeah, the other one was when you were outside at the party house and she was getting her hair done and you asked when your turn was. That was quite hysterical too. So yeah, guys, if you don't follow him, you need to, because he'll give you a good laugh whether you feel like laughing or not. So
yeah, we were all filming a TV show and Griff was filming his own.
He was filming for his social media channel.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys all for being here. If you came in late or you know someone that would like to hear it that missed it, they can either re-listen to this in the Twitter space. It's being recorded. It will also be on Daily Big Cat in the next day or 2 or 3. And so you can listen to it there. And you can find all of our other Twitter space and Clubhouse evenings that we've had together on dailybigcat.com. They're all there listed under the Clubhouse playlist. So you can find them all there. So thank you guys for being here. It's been wonderful, and hopefully we'll do this again in sometime in the future.
Everybody open up your mic and thank Griff for being here tonight.
Thank you, Griff.
Thank you,
Griff.
You were great.
Thank you, Griff.
Thank you, Griff.
Thank you, Griff.
All right.
Thank you, Griff.
All right. Have a great weekend.